Log in, zoom in.
No, that's fine.
Come early tomorrow.
Okay, we're up to Lamed. Because of an interruption in the program, we were skipping the Psalm part of the program today. Okay, so we're up to Lamed. Thanks. We're up to Lamed Amid Beis. We had a machlokas. Well, we had a din in the Mishnah about where you can put the Erev, where you can put the Erev, and the Mishnah said the kohen can put it in a Beis HaPras. A Beis HaPras is a field that there was a grave in the field. The field was plowed over. You scared that the grave, the body that was there was ground up into little pieces, and you're going to go ahead. The kohen might go ahead and touch etzem the size of a barley bean, and that would render him tamei. However, you do have access because if one's minapeach, if one goes ahead and blows the way he's walking, you have nothing to worry about. So in Bisman Hazeh, you'd have a Mexican with a blower going in front of you. Right? You have a Mexican with a gas thing on his back going like this, right? But in those days, you get down your hand, your knees, and go. So since you could do that, so therefore it's permitted. The kohen has access to it. The second din where Rabbi Yehuda argued, Rabbi Yehuda says a bigger chiddush, guys, and guys, this for tonight's share is very important. Rabbi Yehuda said that even a kohen could put the Erev in a graveyard. And the question is, how exactly could he get there, have access to the Erev? Now the key is, so the first din Beis HaPras, everyone seems to agree. The second din, Tanna Kama disagrees and says a kohen cannot put an Erev in a graveyard, whereas Rabbi Yehuda says he could. So we're going to begin from Lamed Amid Beis, or the kohen Beis HaPras. About 10 lines up. There's two sets of dots. The first set of dots. Dam Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel, minapech adam Beis HaPras v'hoylech. A person can walk and blow through a Beis HaPras and go. As long as he's blowing, our concern about that particular bone, with the blowing, it'll be taken care of. Yes.
Practically, how does that work? Blows on the floor and blows sand.
Very, very practically correct. Oh, let's say Hesh. Let's say remember me and you and Nam in the minefield. So why did we do that?
In the foxhole?
Yeah, no, when we were in Nam, me and Hesh. So why do we do that with the minefield?
No, like me, you, and
You let the other guy
We're
go
guessing
first.
Bomba.
I thought they would say why is there more black casualties in Vietnam?
A second, we're recording.
The Saudis get kicked out, you won't jump down.
Anyway, take two. Okay, so therefore, practically, you get that on your hands and knees and blow to make sure that there is nothing there. So, I'm a Beis HaPras Shadidish tar. Now, Rabbi Yehuda bar Ami Mishmei Rabbi Yehuda Amar. Rabbi Yehuda bar Ami Mishmei Rabbi says a Beis HaPras that was trampled, walked on, then you wouldn't have a problem because any bone would have been crushed, either smashed into the ground or crushed. That it should not be the size of a barley bean. Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi says af Beis HaKfaros, even in Beis HaKfaros you can put your Erev. Again, guys, so we're discussing Erev Tchumim. We being Kona Shvisa, we're acquiring an area. The way to acquire it is through either your physical presence or food. A kohen who's not allowed in a cemetery says the Rabbi Yehuda, says the Tanna Kama, so of course he can't put his Erev in a cemetery because he doesn't have access to the food, whereas Rabbi Yehuda says he could. So now, what's the machlokes, and how exactly does it work that the kohen can get access to his food in a cemetery? That's the concern. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Apes Akfaris Tana Mefnei Shiyachol Lachitz. The Mishnah said he's able to make a barrier for Leilach and go in. B'shida teva umigdal. Shida teva migdal are kalim that are large, like a coach and box. It has to be the size of a base saw of 40 saw that you walk in. And you would be protected as long as you're in the encapsulated within that box. You wouldn't have a problem. You would not be tummy. Yeah, but what do you do a little bit of Lubavitch?
Outside of a wall, they have a wall around something. They put a gate up there. They put a panel. They put all the trees. They put a gate up.
Yeah.
And but the oil itself inside, there's no roof and there's
okay, But here, it's a regular cemetery. It's not a Lubavitcher cemetery, right? It's a regular cemetery. And l'chora, you'll be able to enter what using the Shida Teva Migdal using this. Now, Kasavar oil zorik, a movable portable oil, shmei oil. Now, an oil, guys, is mafsik. An oil is usually, we call a tent. L'inyan tuma, it's something that's a barrier. So question, you have usually an oil is something stationary. Good? Now you have an oil that's zorik, literally thrown, but it means it's portable. So is that a good oil to be mafsik for tuma or not? So says Rabbi Yehuda, it is. And therefore you'll be permitted to go in with that because any tuma that's emanating from the mesim is going to be interposed by what? By the oil that's moving. And this machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Tanakama, who Pashtus says an oil zorik is loishmei oil. Therefore, you're not permitted to put it in the cemetery because it wouldn't help. Because even if you're in the Shida Teva Migdal and you're going in, since it's portable, it's not mafsik. It's not a barrier. So, Tanya. Now the Chachamim would geyser on Eretz Ha'amim Tumah because the Goyim don't demarcate the graves. The Goyim don't demarcate the graves, so you have to be chayish wherever you go that the passage might be a kever there. So the pump now. At Nichlas Eretz Ha'amim, you go into Chutz Eretz Ha'amim where they would geyser Tumah b'Shida Teva Migdal. Rabbi Mitama says, Rabbi Yitami, why are you Yitami according to Rabbi? It must be because oil zorik loy shmei oil. And that's why you're Yitami. You're in a Shida Teva Migdal.
Non-Jewish bodies are matama?
Excuse me?
Non-Jewish bodies are matama?
Yes, they were guys at Tumah, right? Non-Jewish bodies are Tumah. Now they're not Tumah Tumas oil. They are. So you're asking. Moshe is asking. L'chayra, a guy is not matama Tumas oil. He's only matama Tumas maga, right? I hear, Moshe. I hear your question. I hear his question. Okay.
Why does he move a bone, stepping on something?
No, it could be it could be the gezerah. Moshe, once they were geyser, the geyser completely like a yid. In other words, it's a suffix anyway, right? So, no, he's asking. I hear he's asking. Okay, it's a good question. I have to. What? No, but he's saying the only tumah be tumas oil, right? Okay, so the tumah you worried about is tumas oil. By goyim, there's no tumas oil. Zoysa adam asher yamas fa'oil. Zoysa adam anachnu nikre adam v'him loy nikre adam. So therefore, a guy does not have tumas.
Maybe in Kodesh lands they don't like a Yid's grave earth.
No, in the Jewish cemetery, the Yid does the burial. That's why we have something called the Chevra Kadisha, right? They take care of things. No, he's asking a good question. Okay, very good.
Who says there's no Yid in an Eretz Ha'amim?
We just had that point. Eretz Ha'amim, Jewish cemetery, Jews demarcate their graves. They don't leave it stamazai. So you could be Jews, but they're buried in cemeteries. I mean, the covenant mace that we give, we never leave a mace overnight, right? You have to see in Yerushalayim, guys. They don't leave a mace overnight. They do burials at night. They don't leave a mace overnight. There's just tremendous covenant. Goyim leave mace around for who knows how long. What? Yes, I know someone who applied for a job to do the makeup. Yes, I mean, she's a makeup artist, and she decided it's a good way to make some money. She applied for a job. Yeah. What? I'll go to Hesh. That's good. Hesh, I think we heard enough from you tonight. Hesh is breaking out all his Torah. He's breaking out his Bekiyas with all the Torah Kula.
His 28th year, he's going to break out.
Hesh, you've been holding back all these years. They don't. There's only clothing in the front. There's no clothing in the back. It's all a show. It's a facade. So the whole back is cut off. They only have front clothing. Now, how he knows that, I don't know. And anyway, says the Gemara. Tanya. The my kamifli masava oil zorik loy shmei oil. Masava oil zorik shmei oil. The one who says shmei oil, Rabbi Yehuda says it's tahar, and Rabbi says la shmei oil, it's tamei. Now take out v'ha. Take out it makes v'ha the tiny is usually a question, right? If you take out the v'ha and the dalid, it's a new beginning. In other words, we just concluded the machlokus between our Tanakama and Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah is the same machlokus Rabbi and Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. Now, Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda says, Ma'arvin l'koyin tahar b'truma tahira b'kever. You can go ahead. The koyin that's tahar with truma that's tahar. You can go ahead and make the erev in a kever. Now the question is, now let's says top Rashi because when it says truma tahira, certainly lav dafka truma, but even certainly where chulin, where there's no din of tahira per se, right? You could use for an erev tchumen. The nami mitama chazile, even if the chulin becomes tamei, the kohen can still eat it. El afilu truma, the mitama loy chazile, efshalam evet takanta, as we're going to see. So the chiddush is that what even truma, which could contract tuma and he couldn't eat, nonetheless chazile. Okay, so now if the truma is tahar and the kohen is tahar, you put it what in a kever in a cemetery and everything's good. Question: how is this going to work? This is the question we began to share with. How does the kohen let Rabbi Yehuda have access to the cemetery? How does he have access to a cemetery? Says the Gemara. I'll tell you how it works. Heichi Ozel, what's he going to do? B'shida teva migdal. He goes in and shida teva migdal. And since Rabbi Yehuda says oil zorik shmei oil, it's a good barrier. You're good. Fred the Gemara, but even the achte, since he goes ahead, right? The food, itmala, the food becomes tamei, right? Says Rashi Klaimar. Nehidel of Yehuda feel the basic forest ikatakandel lamezal b'shida teva migdal. The koshkein kev yechidi, and this is speaking about a kever. It's not speaking about a cemetery, guys. It's speaking about a kever. Sheyachal lamed etzloi is able to stand next to. Elmiyah truma michiancha hasam mitamav ba'oil shel kever. What's it talking about? Guys, look at this top line. Ma'arvin l'koyin tor b'truma t'hora b'kever. So you're going over to a grave. Guys, look at me. You're going over to a grave. You're taking truma that's tahar. You're putting it on top of the grave, and you're telling the kohen, you have an erev. Now, can the kohen go in? According to Yehuda, yes. Why? Shida teva migdal. Good. But when it's put the food down on the grave, the truma becomes tamei. You can't eat truma that's tamei. Again, it says on the grave. The food becomes tamei. On the grave. Now, so the food becomes, there were guys of 4 amas around the grave, even the matzeva. So now you have a problem. Forget about a personnel problem. You have a food problem. Says the Gemara, as soon as v'kivin achta, since you placed it on the kever, he kamala. And for Gemara, I got a better eitzah. In order for something to be makabel tumah, what does it need? Hachshara. It needs one of 7 liquids. Yad shachadam to fall on it. It never had preparation for tumah. It's on a grave, but it can't contract tumah because it never had preparation. In such a scenario, you can like tzuvat the erev tchumim. Fred the Gemara, v'hechi ma'asilei, or either it was kneaded with meiperis and tamakabel tumah from fruit juice. Now,
Right. Does any type of shida teva migdal help for food also? Why do you have to say that he put it in something on the kever?
Here's a much bigger chiddush. Even if you don't put in something, it's good. Isn't this a bigger chiddush?
It is, yes.
Okay, so now,
The issue is that when the kohen is
so the kohen now, let's go through it. You have the kohen in a shida teva migdal is tahar. You got food that wasn't muksher, so it's tahar. Now, doesn't the kohen have to stick his hand out to get the food? In other words, you have to have the ability. You don't have to eat the food. You don't have to eat the food. You need the ability to get to the food, and you need the food to be chazila. You need the food to be edible. In other words, you got to check off what I need to be able to get it, even I don't need it, but I have to be able to get it. So now he's tahar, at least for the moment. Why? He's encapsulated. Good. The food is tahar because it's not muksher. Fred the Gemara, but what about getting the food from point A to point B? How are you going to get the food to him in the shida teva migdal? Says the Gemara, v'hechi ma'asilei, and for the Gemara, b'pshute kliyates, the loy mekabel tuma. Now you have a pshute kliyates, meaning is a type. It's a box. It's a box.
So what's the problem? Why couldn't he just use a shit teva migdal to get the food?
Here he is. He's in his box. Here's the food outside the box. What does he have to do?
This box doesn't move.
No. How's he going to get from his? He sticks his hand out. He's finished. You have to get the food in the box.
I'm thinking like a box.
Okay, so let's say he was in a box like this, and now he has to get to me, right? He's going to have to do something to get to me. So a pshute kli eitz is not makabel tuma. If it doesn't have a receptacle area, it's not makabel tuma. So if he doesn't stick his hand out. He's got a long stick, right? He sticks the long stick out. Okay, so now here's your problem. Good pshute kli eitz, it itself doesn't become tummy, but it can be mile on the mace to bring the tumah in. In other words, if it's let's say you take a 2x4, you stick a 2x4 out. It is a tebach. It's good. You got an idea there. You got a 2x4. You stick it out. You're going to take the 2x4 that you're inside. You're going to bring it back in. But as soon as you put the food on the kever, 2x4 is on the kever. 2x4 now becomes tumah, and someone goes into the house through the oil. What did you gain? So that's what the Gemara is beautifully going through exactly this mitzias. How exactly is it working? So says the Gemara. Now you got a problem. Vechi my slave should the kliates. The loy mekabel tuma. Fred the Gemara good. It's not mekabel tuma. Ma'al. It's ma'al, meaning it itself makes an oil to on the kever, and it brings the tuma into the kever, into the shida teva migdal. And for the Gemara, the ma'aslei achu. Let's change the girsa. The ma'aslei achude. It's not. It comes to a point. A chud is a point. It's not a tefach. Like Mussi said, it's not a tefach. You stick it in, bring it in, you're good. Okay, so very good. Food. He's not tummy. Why? Shida teva migdal. Food is not tummy. Wasn't much kabel tuma. Kli is not tummy. Pshute kliates. Mild tuma. You don't got a tefach. Great. Since you check off all those boxes, then guess what? You can do it. You can do it. Okay. Fred the Gemara. My time with the Rabbanan. We just figured it all out. But the Chachamim say you can't put the food into the Pesach forest. Why not? We checked off every box, right? We took care of everything, yeah? So why in the world can't he go ahead and, according to the Rabbanan, why can't you put the food on a keva? And for the Gemara, Kasavri, Asa liknois bias besurei hadna. It's asa to lick bias besurei hadna, meaning the kever is asa b'hadna. Since the kev is asa b'hadna, I can't put my food there because I'm having another. I'm going to be able to go from that place another 2,000 amis. I'm having enough from a place that's asa b'hadna. A kev is asa b'hadna. We learned from Miriam, sham, right? Petikav is sham, that's from Miriam. We learned that sham, anything says sham, that's it, forget about it. So a mace is asa b'hadna. You know, I mean, you can't have enough from a mace. Mace dies, again, you're not supposed to touch the mace. Now, says the Gemara, Michal Rabbi Yudasava Mutta, right? He holds it's Mutta. L'chayra, mace is asa b'hadna, right?
Money from a mace.
What?
Making money from a mace.
Making money from a mace. What do you mean?
If you
It's a business.
So,
You're not making money from the mace. That's selling the mace. You're not. It's a business. You're burying it. You're getting paid for the ancillary things, the kfura,
So body
the
parts.
yeah, no. So yeah, you sell body parts. Then
I was getting to it.
that's not. You know, you're not having enough from the SMAs, right? You're having enough from the ancillary things, right? From the people that are in the stars, you know, you haven't got enough. Anyway, so this is the same businesses that. Okay. Baruch Hashem, listen, someone's got to do it, and Baruch Hashem, it's not you. Remember the guy in the lake house called the Undertaker? Yeah, Josh something or other, right? He wasn't the wrestler. No, not the wrestler. Okay, anyway. He was a guy called the Undertaker. Anyway. So anyway, I think Yudi Greenwald.
Why is he here?
And it's I don't know. Now, so l'chayr Rabbanan say it's asad avana. It's Michal Rabbi Yudasava Mutta. Now, Rabbi Yehuda Eil's Mutta says Rabbi Yehuda Savar mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu. Very big aside. Mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu. Give me a Gemara Rosh Hashanah. There's a small Gemara there. Yeah, there's a small shas there. You'll see. Keep on going. You'll see a small shas right there somewhere. So it says mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu. It's a big aside that mitzvahs. Thanks a million. That mitzvahs are not for hana. What does that mean? Rashi doesn't explain it here. The main sugi of mitzvah lav lehenis nitnu is a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. Can you go ahead and blow shofar from an oila, a carbon oila? You have a carbon oila, and you break off you take off the, right? It's a carbon is asab hana. It's for Hashem. Can you blow shofar with an oila? The answer is you could. Why? Because mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu. Even though you're having hana from an object that's also hana, that etzem that you makayim the mitzvah is not hana. Let's look at here's the lashon of Rashi in here. Mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu. What's the lashon? Loy lehenis nitnu li Yisrael li yos kiyumam lahem hana. The fulfillment of a mitzvah is not for you, hana, ela oil al savareim nitnu. They were given to be a burden on us, a yoke on us. In other words, of course, serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, guys, has a certain geschmack. It's such geschmack, right? You serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you do mitzvahs, you feel good, you feel cleansed. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu being good to us. The biggest title you can get is Moshe Eved Hashem. The biggest title you can get is to be called an Eved. An Eved doesn't serve for schar. An Eved doesn't have a no. An Eved is an Eved. So that we mekayim mitzvahs is gezeres hamelech. We do mitzvahs not for hana. We do mitzvahs because Hashem tells us. The Mela comes out a huge insight that you can use isuri hana for mitzvahs except in certain situations. I'll give you an example. Can you be yotze a mitzvah with a shofar or a lulav and ear and idachas?
You don't have the,
What's the answer?
you don't have the share.
Oh, says Baruch, according to Gemara. You should know Benji knows stuff, guys. Don't think he's just a let's. No, he hides behind his leitanis. He knows Torah. You're missing there the shear because it's considered burnt. There's another madrega. In other words, nearly dachas, it's not pshat that's only asahana. It's nishda. You're blowing nothing. You don't have the shear. It's considered burnt already. So there are scenarios that even though mitzvah slav lehenis nitnu, you won't be yaitz of the mitzvah. You know why? You don't have the share of the mitzvah. The classic case is the lulav of an nidachas or the shofar of an nidachas. But it's a big yisoid in kol kula that mitzvah slav lehenis nitnu. So it comes out very nicely. We're going to see the purpose of this tchum. The purpose of this of extending my tchum is to do a mitzvah. I have to go to Oval. I have to go to Bismushta. I have to have something. I got to do something that requires me to go beyond my 2,000. So I'm setting it up for a mitzvah. So you're having enough from a grave, right? What's the answer? Mitzvah lav lehenis nitnu.
Maybe someone wanted to hear the beautiful sound of a shofar. Couldn't use the oil.
If it's not a mitzvah, for sure not. Correct. If it's not, it's only because it's a mitzvah. If it's just because, let's say you want to toot your horn, no, they're not right. Viking game. My favorite Kirk Cousins. Okay, it's good. Yeah.
Erev is a mitzvah?
The Gemara holds where Yehuda holds that no. Rabbi Yehuda holds it's not the Erev that's a mitzvah. It's the Erev that's allowing you to do a mitzvah. The only way you can set up Hili an Erev Tchum is to extend Tchum to perform a mitzvah. But that's spaziering another 2,000. 2,000 is fine. Why are you doing it? You have to get somewhere for the purpose of a mitzvah. Okay, Geshmak?
You're only allowed to use it if you're using it for a mitzvah.
According to Rabbi Yehuda. We're going to get that's going to be part of the raid now. But I want you to hear the lashon. I want you to hear the lashon of Rashi, guys. The lashon of Rashi. It's very interesting because it shows the beauty of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how good He is to us. Because mitzvahs are what? He says the lashon. If you're ever feeling like you don't want to do it, it's exactly what Hashem wants you to do. Right? Oil at savareim nidnu. They're being oil on us. They're perfect for us.
What's the chat by Kisi Adam? If someone stole the mitzvah, you have to pay.
What? Because if you get a mitzvah, you get schar for the mitzvah. If someone chapped your schar, it's not, again, schar and hana are two different things. He chapped your schar. Not only Kisi Adam, any mitzvah. Guys, you good? Okay, very geschmack. The Rashi in Rashi in Rosh Hashanah Chavches. Okay, so now comes out like this. So Rabbi Yehuda holds that mitzvah slav lehenis nitnu. So even though the grave is asur b'hana, you're able to go ahead and put the erev on top of the grave. Now the Gemara goes the other way now. So it's very, very good. Limkit hanoi. So let's say now that if the chayra, this din of mitzvah slav lehenis nitnu, is totally in machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim. Pashas the Chachamim who are not allowing you to put the kever there, they must hold that what mitzvah lehenis nitnu, or else why can't you put the erev on top of the kever? So let's suggest that this yisoid that we learned is in fact a machlokes Tanoim. Rabbi Yehuda is saying lav lehenis nitnu, and the Chacham say lehenis nitnu, right? Because they're not allowing it. Amalach Rabbeinu. Isfir lehu de'ema arvin elo devar mitzvah the kuli alma mitzvah lav lehenis nitnu. If everyone would hold that the purpose of an Eruv is for a mitzvah, everyone would hold you could put it there. Masava ein ma'arvin elo devar mitzvah. Rabbi Yehuda says you only can make an Eruv for devar mitzvah, Baruch. But you can only make an Eruv devar mitzvah. Memela, you could put it on the keva. Why? Because vis-a-vis a mitzvah, there's no hana. Whereas umasav, the chacham hold ma'arvin afilu devar rishus, even if it's not a mitzvah. You could put it on the kever even though it's not a mitzvah. So what's the next step? So that means I'm having hana because there's no mitzvah. But you can't have hana from a kever. Memela, the chacham say you can't put it on the kever. Okay, one more time, guys. That's it. A lot of stuff today. Machlokes. Can you put an erev techumim in a cemetery? Cemetery. Even can you put it on a grave? So where, in other words, where the Kohen does not have to come in and b'shita teva migdal. He doesn't have to come in. We took care of that problem. It's just a simple problem. Can you put it on a grave or can't you put it on a grave? Says the Chacham, you can't. Says Rabbi Yehuda, you could. The grave is asa b'hana. How can I have enough from the grave? Says the Gemara, mitzvah lav lehenis nitnu. So if you want to tell me mitzvah lav lehenis nitnu is a machlokes Tanoim, but where the Chacham say your mitzvah lav lehenis, no, not true. The question is whether it's a mitzvah or not. Rabbi Yehuda says the only time you can go ahead and use an erev techumim is for the purpose of a mitzvah. Memela, if it's on there, it's for the purpose of a mitzvah. It's asa b'hana, mitzvah lav lehenis nitnu. Whereas the Chacham say no, I can put it on there even for the marishus, not a mitzvah. Memela, that's hana, and the grave is asa b'hana. If the Chacham hold what, you can't put it on the grave. That's just say, again.
So the Rabbanan,
for example,
Let's say the Erev is the Rabbanan, let's say, right?
but there's a shita the erev tchum is the raisa. There is a shita.
The shita is not Erev.
Okay, it's the rabbanan.
None of them agree with the Rabbanan also. It's not the raisa. And they have enough from the race, right?
I'm not sure. A mace is asa b'hana. Mid the raisa, yeah, from Miriam. Yeah, sham.
But the mace,
Sham.
they're not the kever.
Again, the kever is the mace. What is the kever? No, I think that 4 amas around. I think we learned the sugya 4 amas around is the rabbanan. The mace, the kever itself could be the raisa, Yankel. I think you might be talking. We learned earlier in some of our 100 thought that we've done,
wait, so the Rabbanan,
Yeah, Maish, what?
the Rabbanan would agree in a case of a mitzvah, you could put it on the grave?
In a case of a mitzvah, you can put, yes, they would.
So they're
Yes.
not even arguing. There's no machlokes then.
No, there is a machlokus. The machlokus is whether an erev tchumim is a mitzvah or not.
Meaning, can it be done for your rishus or not?
Correct. So the Chacham say, since you could do it for a rishus, and then not by mitzvah, there you're having enough in the grave because there's no mitzvah involved, and therefore you can't do it. But in a chinami, if it was for a devar mitzvah, you would be able to put it.
So the kever's holding your sitter, so it's okay because you don't need to.
Again, I think that might be problematic.
Couldn't
Anyway.
you just be mocking him without him having access to the cemetery?
Who makna who?
Mocking to the kohen. Here's the food. Without him.
Oh, what is shliach? Oh, okay, we'll see. Next Gemara is about shlichus. Okay, let's see. But until we get there, let's see. Okay, says let's apply the 9 o'clock rule at what time? 8:20. Okay, 8:20.
No, it's 8 o'clock.
We started much later, right?
You don't count.
Wow. Okay. So, says the Gemara, Elahada Am Rabbi Yosef, Eim Arvin Elo Devar Mitzvah, Leimek Tanoi. Rabbi Yosef, that Amar Rabbi Yosef says you can only make an Erev Devar Mitzvah. That would only be according to Rabbi Yehuda, like the Chachamim not. So Amal Shmaitza, so Amal Rabbi Yosef, the Kul Yalma Eim Arvin Elo Devar Mitzvah. Oh, you hear this? Even the Chachamim would be moda that you could only make an Erev for a mitzvah. So what's the kasha? If they hold that what you can make it for a mitzvah, and they also hold mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu, so why in the world can't they go ahead and put the erev on the kever? Udi kuli alma mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu. Now ubaho kamifluki. Here's the machlekes. Masava, Rabbi Yehuda holds, Kivin the Konale Erev, since you're Koine the Erev, Leinichale the Mintre, you don't need it being watched. You don't need it to be watched. Well, again, how does it work, guys? Lamashal, guys, Bein Hashmasos, the food is there. You come there, the next day there's no food. Can you walk 2,000 amas?
Yeah, what's it say about Kashmash? Right.
Andy, don't do this. It's this. Right. Why? When are you kind of shvisa? What time, guys? Bein Hashmashos. As long as it was there, Bein Hashmashos. Okay. So says Rabbi Yehuda, I don't care what happens to it afterwards. So what's the only hana I'm having? The hana of a mitzvah. The only hana. Now what do we say? Mitzvah lav lehedes nitnu. Umasav, and the Chachamim hold nichalei de mintrei. He wants it to be watched. The isrich, because he will need it, achalei. Now, it being watched to eat is not mitzvah. That's hana. There's no mitzvah associated with that. Memele the Chachamim say you can't put it there. Not because of the mitzvah, because of the ancillary hana you possibly could have that you want it watched on the grave. Comes like a geschmack, guys. Very geschmack. Let's go through the steps. It's a very, very intense Gemara. Okay, now we have machlokes. Look at me. Everyone, look at me. Don't look at your Gemara. We have over here two shittas. Can you put an erev on a grave? You're a kohen. Can you put an erev on a grave? Says the Chachamim. You in fact you can't. Why should you be a kohen? Why you're not a kohen? Even not a kohen. If it's a din suri hana, there's nothing to do. Even not a kohen. I mean, I don't know why they stay by the kohen. It could even be a Yisrael l'chayra. The whole shaila is, well, you having enough of a grave on that, right? No. Again. We're not. We dealt with the kever. We dealt with all that already, right? Okay. So anyway, l'chol hapachas. Can you put food on a grave or not? What's the shaila? A mesis asa bahana. A mesis asa bahana. So let's start. A mesis asa bahana. I'm having hana from the mace. I put my food there, and what's the hana? I'm going to be able to walk X amount where I need to go. Says Rabbi Yehuda, you could do that, no problem. Says the Chacham, you can't. What is the Sfaras HaMachlokas? Apparently, whether mitzvahs lohanis nitnu, elav lohanis nitnu. Like Rabbi Yehuda, what's the hana you're having? It's the hana of a mitzvah to allow me to walk farther to a devar mitzvah. Good. That's what you're saying. That's not a problem because that's not mitzvahs is oil al savareno, right? Says the Chachamim, not. We want to suggest that what it's machlokas hanoyim. No, everyone else mitzvah henester. Everyone else, even the Chachamim. So what's the machlokas now? Next step. The question is whether there's a mitzvah or not. Like Rabbi Yehuda, the reason you're extending is what? It's for a mitzvah. Memela hana, not a problem. The Chachamim say no. You can even extend it for a rishus. Even extend it for rishus. So now I'm not having hana. There's no mitzvah. There's rishus, right? So Rabbi Yosef says, comes out that this is a big problem because Rabbi Yosef said everyone holds l'devar mitzvah, even the Chachamim. The Chachamim don't let you extend your 2,000 amis. It has to be for a devar mitzvah. So and the Chachamim hold mitzvah slav lehenes nitnu. So now we have a problem. What is the reason the Chachamim hold you cannot put an erev on a grave? If it's hana, it's not a problem. It's the devar mitzvah. They all hold it's only for the devar mitzvah. And for the Gemara, the reason is because there's ancillary hana. What's the ancillary hana? Being watched. Rabbi Yehuda holds that's not hana because he doesn't need he doesn't care. Whether the food is there the next day, not there the next day, bein hashmashos is there, that's all I care about. So the only hana you have is the hana of the mitzvah. It's the law of Says the Chachamim, no. I want my food to be watched. Why? Because maybe if I walk 2,000 amis, I'm going to need a little snack along the way. Good? So that watching of the Erev has nothing to do with the extension of the Erev. The extension of the Erev is the Hana. I can go to the Bar Mitzvah. The watching of the food is pure Hana. Pure Hana, you can't have it. It's also Hana. Therefore, you can't put it on the side. You can't put the Erev on top of the grave. How we doing? Okay, you'll chaza in your chazara now. Steve will put it on. You can always watch it again and chaza. I look every once in a while and it says no views, and I say, boy, he's working for nothing. Anyway, says the Gemara Vaita. Says the Mishnah. Okay, guys, very easy Mishnah. We learned all this before twice. We learned it in Brachis and we learned it in Shabbos. Okay, I'm gonna stick the Gemara in the Mishnah. Listen well, like this would end on in a time because Heshi's getting very nervous. Says the Gemara. Ma'arvim b'damai. You can make an erev demai. Now, the mai is the tfuah of an amaretz that you have to meiser, and if you're an ani, you can eat the mai. So since every person can be mafker his property, it's seen to him. So it's something that you could see, even if you're a rich guy. Since you can be mafker your property and not be a rich guy, you can use the mai as an erev. Uva meiser rishon shenat l'trumaso, and you can go ahead and use meiser rishon that you took off trumas meiser, but you didn't take off truma gedola. Before it was piled up in the Kri, before it was piled up, the Levi went and chap his trumas his meiser rishon before the kohen took his truma gedola. Then once you take off meiser, you take off trumas meiser, you don't take off truma gedola. So the mela, that's the case over here where the Levi chapped the marois, and therefore it doesn't mean he didn't take off trumas meiser, meaning he took off trumas meiser before truma gedola was taken off because he got to it before it was piled up, and there's no chiyuv to go ahead and take off truma gedola. Ma'aser sheni v'hegdish sheniftu. Ma'aser sheni v'hegdish that you were paida without adding the fifth or the quarter. You're supposed to add on a fifth or a quarter to the amount, and you didn't. Nonetheless, the kahanim b'chala, kahanim would go over truma. If it wasn't up to the tevel, they're not yaitza. And not ma'aser rishon that the Levi took it off after the kohen went ahead. It was after, guys, after it was piled up in the Kri. The Levi tried to do the same trick. He took off his ma'aser rishon. In that case, it's too late. In that case, you would not be yotza. And not ma'aser sheni v'hegdish shlo niftu means you weren't paida, but you weren't paida them correctly. By the ma'aser sheni, it says v'tzarta kesef b'yadcha. You have to use a coin with a tsura on it, and you didn't. You used a slug. And by hegdish, you used karka rather than the sata kesef v'komloi, rather than using money. I just read the Gemara in here so you can see the rest of yourself. No, and it says the Gemara Vaita. Says the Gemara, Demai says the Gemara, Demai ha loy havi chazile. Demai not chazidim, right? It's not chazi. Now this would be only according to Sumchus, right? Sumchus is said by Truma, it'll argue by Truma. We had Machlokas yesterday. But you need Sumchus needs chazi. Rabbanan don't need chazi. Rabbanan said that Yisrael can be yetz with Truma. So of course you can be yetz with Demai.
You guys have to go on the YouTube and watch it again.
The Ma'il Chazile, Migu di boy mafkalahu l'nechase, since he gave him after his nechasim, Bahavi Ani and become an Ani, B'chazile, Ashtanami Chazile. Now it's also seen to him. That Na'an Machilun as Aniyim Demai, on the base, you can go ahead and feed Aniyim Demai, yes, Achsani Demai, and an army in the city, you can feed Demai. So therefore, since he's an Ani, it's seen to him the Demai, you could use it for an Erev. Okay, now my solution again says in Pshita, you're supposed to take off truma, guys. Guys, again, order of separations of tithes. You have the crop, truma gedola goes to the kohen. A tenth of the remaining crop is ma'aser rishon. From the ma'aser rishon, the Levi takes off trumas ma'aser. He takes another tenth and gives it to the kohen. Good. So here's what happened. You have ma'aser rishon that you took it off, and the Gemara's havamina is you took off the truma gedola as well. So pshit, it's pashit. That's what you're supposed to do. So of course you yaitza. What's the big spritz? What do you do wrong over here? Says the Gemara, here's what happened. Like tzricha shekdimu b'shibolin. The Levi went ahead, and while it was still in sheaves before it was piled up, he went ahead. V'not l'mimenu trumas ma'isa. And he went and he took his ma'aser rishon. And v'not l'mimenu trumas ma'isa, like not l'mimenu truma gedola. He took trumas ma'isa from the ma'aser rishon, but not truma gedola. Ma'aser rishon shekdimu b'shibolin. Ma'aser rishon that the Levi beat him to the punch while it was still in the sheaves. Patim truma gedola is patim truma gedola. So that's the chiddush. That even though it's a little hanky panky going on over here, something that's not so kosher b'yashar, nonetheless, what you could be yaitza your Eruvin with it. Shenemar ari moisem imenu trumas Hashem, and you should separate from it trumas Hashem. Ma'aser min ha'ma'aser. You separate a trumas ma'aser from a ma'aser from ma'aser rishon. Ma'aser min ha'ma'aser matil chav loy truma gedola trumas ma'aser min ha'ma'aser. I said a tenth from the tenth, but not a truma gedola from the tenth. So we have a pasuk that says it's pata from truma gedola. So that's the chiddush here. If that's the case, I feel like even after it's piled up, he should be. Let's say that you're telling me that once the Trumas Maisa is taken off, you don't think of Truma Gedoyla because you think of Maisa Mena Maisa. So even after it's piled up, if the Levi would go ahead, take his Maisa Risha and give the Trumas Maisa, this also should be part of Truma Gedoyla. So on that we say Amakro, we have another pasuk. You call Maisa Sechem from all your Maisa to Rimu is called Trumas Hashem. You should go ahead and separate your Truma. So any Maisa, even Maisa from the Kree. For example, my Royas, why do you see to apply this pasuk, the Riboy, to after it's piled up versus before it's piled up? After my high idgon, that's considered dagon. Kree is considered dagon. The high, when it's in Shibolim, loy idgon. It's not considered dagon. So that the chiddush over here is, again, we have this quite a few times in Shas. We'll have it in Pesachim again. So just remember it. I'll explain it to you again anyway, but just in case. Okay, so he beat him to the punch before the Truma Gedoyla while it was in Shibolim. Ma'aser Sheni B'Gdish Niftu, again, he was played, but he didn't get the fifth. He gave the principal, he didn't get the fifth, which is really a quarter, right? 100 is 125, not 120. That the chaimish does not stop it from being, in Yiddish, oiskalaced, right? It's from being redeemed. You can't be yaitz b'tevel, pshita. Why? Like tzricha b'tevel, tavel b'drabanan. Let's say it's tevel d'Rabbanan. It's an atzah shein enakav. It's a flower pot without a hole, so it's not being yonik from Eretz Yisrael. Truma is only in Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, I would think that since it's only the Rabbanan in nature, maybe you could be yaitza and erev kamashman. You can't. He went ahead and he took it out of the Kree. He went ahead and he dumped in the Kree. You're not yaitza. Like Rapapa said to Abaya, the pasuk of what? Let Maisa Mina Maisa. Mashman Kedeshani lay that once it's piled up already, you have a pasuk and call Maisa Sechem to remove. You can't be yaitza your erev with Maisa Sheni behegdish that you're not niftu. You can't be yaitza for that. Pshita like tzricha shepodon v'lei podon kil chasan. It wasn't that you didn't redeem it, guys. You did redeem it, but not correctly. Maisa, how did you redeem the Maisa? Shepodu al gava simon. You use the slug. Guys, it says, it's sarta hakesef biyodcha. Lashon sarta literally means to go ahead and put in your hand. It also lashon of tsior, that the coin has to have an image. Use the slug. Rahman Amar Rachman Amar V'tzarta hakesef sheyesh alav tsura. Hegdish, what did you do wrong by Hegdish? Shechil agav karka, you went ahead and you machal the kedusha of the Hegdish and the karka. Rahman Amar V'nasan hakesef v'kamlo. You have to give kesef, something that's money, and kamlo rather than what? Than karka. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate it very much. I gotta apologize for, it wasn't my fault. It was something to do with technical difficulties.